It's going to be an interesting session this evening. I'm expecting a small but elite group to join me. This is something quite new for me and really looking forward to sharing it with you. I've got two dogs in the background that are slurping away merrily at the moment. Douglas, stop licking his ears, okay? And we're going to wait for some others to join. If they don't, I'm going to continue because then at least you'll all have the recording of this particular presentation, and there's quite a bit to sort of squeeze in to the hour that I really want you to understand. I've got my cup of tea, and if anybody is sitting now listening to me, make sure you've got a cup of tea and you're sat comfortably ready to listen to this and look at some of the stuff that is on the screen. Okay. One of the things I needed to do with this one was to be incredibly positive about how this was going to work out as my first one. So it's been an interesting journey for me, and a journey I will continue on with. I'm going to, I was going to make a start, and the housekeeping really is about making sure everyone can hear me and that you're comfortable. I always find when I'm listening to other people's webinars that, you know, it's really important to feel comfortable, be able to take notes and just generally take in what we're talking about today. Okay. We will have questions at the end. If anybody has any questions they want to ask, equally, you can email me, or if you go onto the website at Jump in the Puddles, you will find that there is a place there you can book a time and I will ring you and we can have a chat around this or any of the other work I do in Jump in the Puddles. And that's a completely free service I offer you. If you have any questions or anything and today or this evening is not the time to ask, then that's fine, because you can just email me, as I say, or give me set a booking time and I'll ring you and we can have a chat. Everybody who registered for the webinar and everyone on my list will get a recording of this session. And I hope that it's not just around introducing a new course I am doing, but actually this is something that in of itself you'll be able to take away and do something with, make some changes that will really, and I mean really, give you some positive direction in your life. Okay, so I'm going to continue on, and if people join us, that's great. So first of all, who am I? Well, I'm Bev Hepting. I run a website called Jump in the Puddles, and that's all the W's, jumpinthepuddles.org if anyone wants to go and have a look. Predominantly, I work with women over 50 who have sort of woken up to the fact that they've raised their children, they've supported their husband, they're suddenly looking at their lives and going, you know, what happened to my life and it's my turn, and looking at what they want to do with their lives. And I run a program called Dream It, Plan It, Do It, where we really look at what they want to do in life and really pull those dreams apart and put a plan together and then give them all the resources and the tools they need to actually just go out and do it. So that's who I am. I call myself the Dream Agent because it's very much about making you the star in your own life and me supporting you to do that, and taking center stage, which is something so many women don't do. They raise their families, they support everybody else and forget to put themselves center stage sometimes. So I'm Bev, the Dream Agent, and one of the things I really, really love to work on with people is around how they can be more positive about things in their life, how they can have a bit more belief. And as it says there, you know, with a positive attitude, failure, it might slow you down. It's not to say that you won't fail at times, but what it won't stop you is arriving where you want to be. Having a more positive and belief system in yourself means that you're able to get up and move on and not just lay down and go, no, it's not happening for me. So I'm really, really passionate about the idea that we can all be positive about our lives, and all it means is it's just a little bit of different thinking. So on that note, I have this lovely sort of phrase that I use about positive thinking, and really what it means is that if you take away, you need to identify those negative, damaging thoughts in your mind. You need to find the ones that cause you the problems, that stop you moving forward. They're what I call the gatekeepers, those thoughts that just are like locked doors that you can't get past, and in the end you don't even bother trying. And you need to deal with them, recognize that those thoughts, those negative implications, it hinders you moving forward, and it hinders any success you might have. So what you really need to do is get rid of them from your minds. And if you think about it in terms of the locked door, really what you're doing positively is finding a key to open that door and move forward. And that is incredibly, incredibly important, that you're able to do that and not be afraid and have that sort of totally limiting belief that that door is never going to open. So what I want you to do for the next hour that you're listening to this recording, this presentation, is I want you to suspend your disbelief. So many people I work with, they're so entrenched in the way they believe that they go, well, thinking positively, it doesn't, I've tried that and it doesn't work. And I try to do all these things people tell me, and it just doesn't work. And well, I'll listen, but I don't really believe it. Well, you've now already sabotaged any work we can do here. So what I'm asking you to do, what I'm really going to ask you to do, is just for this hour, totally suspend your disbelief, okay? Put your cynicism away in a drawer and just open your mind to the possibility that there is a different way to think, and that you have control over how you do that. You have the control over how you think. And we are going to suspend everything else, no closed minds for the next hour. We're going to have open minds, and you're just going to absorb, okay? Because the more negative thoughts, the more sort of thoughts that stop you doing something, the more you stop doing it. It's very much like, like attracts like. People say, how come when people have got money, they get more money? And how come when you've got this, you get more of that? There's a universal belief and a universal law that says like will attract like. So what you think about, what opportunities you allow yourself to have, will open up more opportunities. The more doors you can open and go through, the more doors you're going to find in front of you. And if you just stay in one room and decide you can't open that door, then, well, actually, there is absolutely no possibility that you're going to get to maybe the third or fourth door in that is actually the door to your dream, the door to what you really, really want to do. So, and I put it there, if you hold on to those negative thoughts, you're going to pull more negative thoughts into your life. It's a downward spiral, and there's no stopping it. So you need to open your mind, okay, all of you. I want you to really take this on board and open your mind, because the closed one will seal off any creativity, any opportunity, anything that you think you could do. It's going to close it, okay? And you will always struggle. You will struggle to achieve and get ahead. You will always be in that locked room with everything you want behind that door. And you will get more and more resentful and more depressed by the fact that you cannot open that door and move forward. And the only thing that's stopping you is the belief that the door is locked. And 9 times out of 10, you won't even try that door anymore, because you will just believe it is locked. There'll be no proof, absolutely no proof at all, but that's what you will believe. And then what will happen is you will begin to envy everybody else outside of that door. Everybody else will have what you want. They'll be more successful, they'll be richer, they'll be calmer, they'll have more peace in their lives. And you will just feel even more negative because you don't have it. And that's not the way to live. You can't live like that, because you can't truly be happy and content if you're living with this constant envy of what everybody else has got, or remorse that you can't go and get it, or utter belief that that door is locked. Okay. So one of the things, that thing, I think, therefore I am. Well, you think, therefore you are. And I want you to really think about that statement, okay? Everything you do, everything you say, everything you want comes from an initial thought. Anything anybody's ever achieved in the world started with a thought. And the bigger the success, the less likely that thought was, I can't. Okay? What they might have thought was, I want, that might be difficult, but I'm going to find out how. But their thoughts determined what came next. And if you think about that, that makes absolute sense. If you think it's not going to happen for you, you will never see the opportunity and it will not happen for you. If you think, I want to be, and I'm going to be that thing, your mind, your brain, your thoughts, everything is open to every opportunity that may come along. You don't close your eyes or your ears off to it. You're suddenly very open to what you want to do. And it all comes at you and you're able to keep going through those doors. Okay? Because we're born with this beautiful, beautiful grey matter, the brain in our head. And that brain is there to give us what we want. We control an awful lot of what our brain does. There's the very deep level stuff like breathing and getting the blood going and keeping the heart pumping. And that's an automatic process that the brain carries on with. But our thinking, our belief system, our processes, how we determine who we are in life, that's down to us. That's the choice we make. And so often those choices are made on the environment we live in or the things people tell us. Okay. And if you think about when you were young, when you were very young, before you became aware of people around you telling you you couldn't, nothing stopped you trying. If you hadn't, if the human baby didn't think it would walk one day and didn't keep trying and trying and trying, we would all be shuffling about on our bums because we just wouldn't get up on our feet. We'd stand and fall over so many times. And as mothers, those of you that are parents, when we were teaching our children to walk and wanting them to take those first steps, even though they fell over, we picked them up and go, it's fine, on you go, you'll be able to walk. And we instilled in them the belief. We all believed that the babies are going to get up and walk. Okay, we didn't question it. We didn't ask ourselves if, they've fallen over and they've hurt themselves and we must never let them walk again, because actually that would be a form of abuse. If we tell our children they can't do something, we are stifling and shutting down the opportunities they have in the future. So if you think of your inner self as the child in you, every time you tell it can't do something, you are shutting down any opportunity it may have in the future. And you could almost say you're abusing the own child within you. Okay. And the only thing that created those hesitancies, is that a word? Hesitance? Yeah, hesitant things in us. The only things that's made us afraid and stopped us going on and doing these things is because people around us told us that we couldn't, or we did something and we were laughed at. So we felt, that's it, I'm never going to do it again. I don't want to be laughed at. Or we looked at it and it just looked too difficult. And we've been told for so long that actually you're not that clever and you've believed it. So all that negative thought you have in you today, all those negative actions, words, behaviors, they come from other people. And they come from other people's belief, not ours. Okay? So you really need to think about that, because that's what we need to change. We create habits of negative thinking. And what we have to do is relearn positive thinking. Okay. So you need to understand that your thoughts influence your speech. Okay, it's quite difficult to say to yourself, to say to someone, I'm going to climb that mountain, while inside you're going, no, I'm not, I can't climb that mountain. That mountain's far too high. It's just fighting against each other, and you want to be able to believe. Okay, now you might not necessarily believe right at that moment, but by continually telling yourself and keep saying it, you are going to train your brain to believe it. Okay, so you need to begin to understand how your thoughts influence your speech. Okay, and that will influence your behavior. And if you can change the way you think and the way you do your inner talk, that self-talk, I always think of it as these two people, the angel and the devil on my shoulder, and the devil's doing that negative, no, you can't, and the angel's going, yes, you can, yes, you can. I don't know if anyone remembers the old Tom and Jerry cartoons, and they always had them there. If you can knock the devil one off, if you can knock the negative out and continue listening to the angel, you will begin to change the way you think, the way you speak, and your behavior and your attitude to other things will change. Okay. We have the capacity to command the way we think, total command over our own brains and our own thinking. Okay. So you either accept a situation and sit there and go, I'm in the locked room. Well, I'm in the room, the door's shut, it must be locked. I'm going to sit here, I'm going to feel sorry for myself for the rest of my life. Or you say, actually, you know what, I'm going to get up and see if that door opens. And if that door opens, I'm going to take a step out. And the very thought of going, I'm actually going to go and see if that door is unlocked, is a starting point of putting away the negative, oh, it's bound to be locked, it's always locked. Okay, and I hope you're following that. I'm going a bit fast with this, but I want you to understand it's the thought process. Okay, so we all talk negatively to ourselves in different ways, and that, I think most people will agree that it's that negative talk we have to and I'm going to call it the inner child, because that's how I see it, because I would never talk like that to my own children, so I refuse to talk to that to the child in me. So things like, I can't, it won't work, I tried it, and that word but will always, come in and knock out everything you've said before. It always goes wrong, always, etc., etc., all those things. And actually we have to change those things, and ask yourself the question, does it always go wrong? Has it always gone wrong? Actually, have you ever tried? So if you're sitting on the floor in that room going, that door's always locked, it's always locked. Do you know it's locked if you've never got up and actually turned the handle to see if it's locked? So that sort of negative speech can be changed. We can change the habits of thinking like that. And that's about slowly understanding, not comparing yourself to other people. It's about every time it happens, being aware of the thought and changing it. And it is a slow process. I mean, it's taken you, you're adults now, it's taken you your whole life to believe all those negative thoughts you have in your head and those negative belief systems. We're going to change them from negative to positive, but it takes a little time and a little practice, because we're recreating habits. We're actually changing the way the brain's synapses work, a bit like a railway line. At the moment, the thought comes along the railway line and it automatically goes into the station of can't, into the station of negative. Whereas what we are going to do is train the brain to switch that track, the synapses, into the positive and the creative and the I'm going to have station. Okay, and that's what this is all about. So once you think something, and this is about speech, thought, behavior, and it happens very fast. I mean, if you can think of any time, and I know it's happened to me before, where somebody said to me, oh, we're going to do this, what do you reckon? And before I've even thought, I've gone, no, it won't work. And then I've had to go, no, hang on a minute, let me rephrase that, let me chuck that statement out. Most of us have a default. We have a default position we move to. So once you think something, your brain takes hold of it and it runs. It's got the thought and it's running with it. It's a bit like the quarterback up the football pitch in America. And once you say something that's going to reinforce that thought, well, your brain's off, it's off like a rocket into space. It's landed on that comet up there alongside it. It's gone. Yeah, okay, I'm doing exactly what you want me to do, and off it's gone. So the only thing that can happen next, if you haven't grasped those first two bits and realized what is happening, is that your behavior is going to reinforce that spoken word, which will reinforce the thought. And you go round and round in circles. It becomes the default action. And what we have to do is try and put a spanner in the works there between the think, the say, the do. Okay, and change the way you think. And that means recognizing it, being able to recognize and see it when it's happening. Okay, so if you're thinking something negative, go and try this. Now think of something really negative. For the first time, I'm going to let you do this now because you're conscious of it. I want you to try and think of something really negative and then just shift your thought back a bit and think about how you're feeling, because it is impossible to be happy while you're thinking something negative. Okay, don't we all want to be happy? Well, happiness is a choice we can make. It's back to the room. Do you choose to sit in the room looking at the door that you don't even know if it's locked, hearing the fun and the laughter going on outside in the corridor? Or are you going to get up and go and open the door, see if it's locked? Okay, you're going to take that first step into making that change. So I want you to just think about that and think about, when you're really thinking about something negative or you're feeling, and this often happens after an event. Often people will say, I wish I was invited to do something and I couldn't. I didn't do it because I knew it wouldn't work, but I wish I had. And they actually almost end up with a guilt feeling that they didn't do what they thought they couldn't do. And then they're into, well, if that, I'm never going to do it. That's it. I'm never going to do it. No, I tried the door once, it was locked, so I'm never going back. Well, if you can change your thought process, actually, you don't mind getting up and trying again. And it may be locked the next time. It may be locked the next 4 times. But on the 5th time, it's not locked. But you'd never know that unless you shifted the way you think and shifted the choices you make. Okay. And that's about, excuse me, I've got to have a slurp of tea. I'm going a bit dry here. You can tell I love to talk. Gorgeous. Sometimes I make a lovely cup of tea. So one of the things, in order to make this change, one of the things you have to practice is center on those positive things that happen in your daily life. And yeah, I can hear you all. Well, some of you going, nothing good happens to me. Nothing ever good happens to me. And I was working with a lady, and it was a sad situation. It really was sad. She'd had an awful time in her childhood, awful time growing up, and she was desperately trying to make her life different. And I said to her, right, let's just take one thing that makes you happy. No, there was nothing in her life that made her happy. Nothing. One thing that she was good at. No, there was nothing. As far as she was concerned, nothing made her happy. She wasn't good at anything. And she lived in this almost cave, dark cave, where she could see the light outside, but couldn't take that step outside. She just couldn't see what was there in front of her. And we started, it took a long while, and we started at a very basic level, and to the point where I said, even though life is awful, when you wake up in the morning, are you glad that you're alive? And she said, sometimes. Well, we've made a start. It wasn't, no, I wanted to, sometimes. So we just began to slowly pull that out, that actually there is always something, no matter how small it is, to start with, because you've got to start somewhere. There's something positive that happens in your daily life, even if it is only, I woke up this morning. Okay. and it went downhill from there. That doesn't matter. Concentrate on the fact that you woke up this morning, okay, and you could get on with your day. Don't think about the things you don't want. You know, things go wrong in a day. You know, like for me, sometimes the technology goes wrong, or I do a webinar and no one turns up. That's okay, because I'm not going to worry about the fact that the technology has gone wrong, or nobody's turned up, or I've got the wrong slides in, or it's immaterial. The thing that matters to me is I'm able to give to you what I wanted to give to you. Okay, this particular webinar, it's my very first. It's one I'm still learning how to market. I have this lovely lady, Tracy, who is helping me understand how to market this. So I don't have anybody people did register, but no one's turned up. But I'm not worried about the fact that no one turned up. I'm not going to worry about that, because if I did that, I would never get this webinar finished. I would never be able to record for you what I want to say to you. So my concentration now is on doing this webinar for you, getting the recording done, and getting it out there so that I can help you understand that you all have the capacity and the power to change the way you think and to change the way you live your life. And that is so important to me, because I've been there and I've done it, and I've worked with other people to do it, and I want to work with more people to do it. So don't concentrate on things that you don't want, or the errors that occur. You know, those days when you think, you know, I've got to do this, and I get it done and move on. Okay. So if you just think about what's happening at that moment and just go with it, then you stop those apprehensive thoughts from coming in, those things that start commanding you, make you go, oh, I don't know, I don't know, you know. It's a bit like, and I remember somebody saying to me once, and I remember this vividly as a kid, you know, if you want to learn to swim, jump in. And I'm going, oh, okay, and I've stood by the pool, but I didn't just jump in. I stood there going, oh, it might be deep, it might be this. And I'd worked myself into such a state by the time I never did jump in. And it must have been a few months later, and actually it was a different swimming pool, and it wasn't with the school. I can't even remember why it happened. It was somewhere different, and I just remember those words: "You're going to learn to swim, jump in." And I thought, I'm just going to do it. I can't think, and went for it and jumped in. Yeah, I went under the water. I didn't necessarily learn to swim that day, but what it taught me was, and I'm not even sure it taught me at the time. It's something I think back on now. Is if you think about some things too much, you're going to convince yourself not to do it. Absolute guaranteed you're going to convince yourself. And that is the way it is. It's like bungee jumpers. If they don't just jump, then they're going to talk themselves out of it. And the logical part of the brain, the logical part of the brain is going to tell you every reason why you shouldn't be jumping off such a high space. So just tilt your thoughts to the situation at hand, and that way you don't have room to worry about it. So if there's something coming up that you're worried about, it's not there yet. Just concentrate on the moment. Concentrate on the moment where everything's okay, all right? Because by the time you get there, then it won't be that bad. Never is. And the other thing for me is you need to say it how you want it, all right? Now, I've had a bit of not an argument, but a debate, if you like, with some people over addictions, around, you know, I'm a recovering whatever. And I don't want to come down on one side of this or the other, because I've never been an addict as such. Well, I was a smoker, but nothing else. But for me, and we're going to stick with smoking. We don't go with the others. We'll stick with smoking, you know. I am giving up smoking. Now, that to me means I'm a smoker and I'm trying to give it up. And I'm really trying to give it up, but I'm a smoker. Okay. But if you say I do not smoke, there's no room for interpretation. I do not smoke. Someone offers you a cigarette. I do not smoke. That's it. No ums and ahs. If you're offered a cigarette and someone goes, I'm giving up smoking. Are you sure? You really? Well, I think I am. And the brain's gone into all sorts of reasons why you think you're giving up. So for me, if you don't want to be a smoker, don't be a smoker. You do not smoke. End of. Now, if you fall off the wagon occasionally, if you're giving up smoking and you have a cigarette occasionally, you're going to beat yourself up over the head because you were trying to give it up and you failed. If you don't smoke and the odd occasion you just fall off the wagon, that's fine. You're not a smoker. You've just had a bit of a mistake and you move on. That's how I see it. You have to say it how you want it because the brain has to believe it. It never works. Well, that means as far as your brain is concerned, well, I'm not even going to try. But back to the room. It's always locked. So I'm not even going to go and try the door. Okay? So when you're saying it, the brain is interpreting it and getting ready to put the behavior in place. So once you do the I am going to do it, the brain's almost geared up. I am going to do it. So the brain's geared up, ready to go and try. It's geared up to go and try that door and make sure that it's not locked. So when you get a negative thought in your head, and we all get them, they get into our minds and they whittle in there like little worms. You have to be aware of it. You need to be aware of those thoughts, and you need to substitute those thoughts with a constructive one. You need to find a way to flip it, okay? And that negative thought, those little negative worms, they're little buggers. I tell you, they will try again and again and again. And you have to be aware all the time when they're trying to get in there and change it to a more positive one or flick it away or choose to ignore it. And you have to take control of how that thinks. And it can be done. And when it's done, when you learn how to totally control how you think and to absolutely be aware of every thought and every word, your behavior, your actions, everything changes. And I often hear people have arguments and they'll say, they'll have this big argument, all these awful, awful things will come out of them. And afterwards they go, well, I didn't mean it. Well, you did mean it when you said it, because you can't say something you don't think. You did mean it. And if you want to really control how you interact with other people and to interact more positively and have them interact with you more positively, you need to take control of your thoughts so you don't say things you don't mean, or you don't say things that you know are really going to hurt someone and could completely destroy a relationship when you don't need to say it, okay? So when those negative thoughts go burrowing in there, you really need to be aware of it. It needs to raise a red flag. And it happens to the best of us. I've been doing this work for many years now, and there are still days when they creep in. And for me, I'm a very visual person. So as I say, I have this visualization of the good and the bad on each shoulder, and I will literally go as if I'm waving it off my shoulder, because that one physical sort of movement to do that reminds me, and it reminds my brain that we're not listening. We're not listening to it because we choose not to. And it's this choice thing. People are always going, I have no choice. We weren't born to be negative. Every child that is born believes it can do anything as it grows. It is only when it becomes aware of other people around it and what they say in its environment that the baby learns the negative stuff. We learn negativity from other people. We attract negativity when we're giving negativity. Now, if you want to continue being that person who sits in a room with a door shut, not going to open it because as far as you're concerned, it's locked and it's always been locked and you're not going to bother, then that's fine. That's the choice you make. But you can also choose to stand up and say, I don't want to be the person sitting in this room, not living the life I want to live, not enjoying my life and being happy, or because I won't go and try that door. Now that sounds simplified, and for this webinar, it is simplified. I have simplified the whole thing down, I have to say, because there is a lot more to this, a lot more, and there are things and exercises, resources you can use to really turn your life around and have that Hell Yes 2015. So I'm hoping that from that webinar, there's lots of stuff there for you to think about and to take away and work on. But if you really, really want to make that change, you really are going to choose to make that change and make your 2015 a year where you get to do the things you really want to do. I'm starting on the 28th of November, a 3-week Hell Yes to 2015. It's an online coaching course. And there will be 2 weeks bonus after Christmas to keep you working on your New Year's resolutions. And what I would say to you at this stage is, don't try to change everything. Don't try to be positive about everything in your life. Pick the things that you really want to do. Okay. So there'll be the 3-week courses, and then there'll be the 2 weeks after Christmas. There'll be a weekly online conference call with questions and answers that you can join in. There will also be a recording of exercises and things you can do. You will have access to me by email and phone or Skype, whichever way we want to do it, and articles, and you will have access to the the Stage Door Club for the duration of the online course, the 5 weeks in effect. And there is so much stuff on the Stage Door Club, lots of audio recordings and various articles and resources that you can use. But most importantly, you will have access to me, and I'm offering this as a bit of an intensive course to help people start their 2015. And it's at a very, very good price, I have to say. So if you are interested, go along to all the W's, jumpinthepuddles.org/ Hell Yes online course, and that will tell you everything it's about and give you the sign up thing. Or email me, book yourself in, and we can talk about it. I'm so excited about the November course because honestly, it will change your life for good. Okay, it really will. It will really show you how much power there is in having that sort of control over the way you think and the way you speak and the way behavior is. Okay, so at this point, I would have stopped for questions, but there is no one to ask those questions. So what I'm going to say to you is, please go and have a look at the Hell Yes online course and see if it's something that you really want to do. Have a look at the website, jumpinthepuddles.org, for all the useful information that you can have. You know, even non-members, there's an awful lot of stuff on there. I'm available if you just want to ring me for a chat, email me, and we can talk about whatever issues you are having. But in the meantime, I want to wish you all a great Christmas, but more importantly, I want to wish you all a Hell Yes 2015. Make next year your year, okay? And make that start now. Just get up off the floor and go and open that door, because it probably is not locked at all. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to say thank you for listening, and